Welcome one and all, it's time for another Warhammer The Old World Battle Report, and this time it's a bit of a civil war brewing in the Dwarven mountain holds. Dwarf versus Dwarf, Beard versus Beard, Hammer versus Hammer, Andy versus Rem. Let's dive in with Mr. Remington, who should be seated here. Good evening.
Hello, my friend, and hello to our wonderful audience. Wherever you're watching from, this is going to be a right blast, this game.
Now, it's
Dwarf
safe to
versus Dwarf.
Yes, it's safe to say that I didn't tailor my list to face your army because I didn't even know you had a dwarf army ready for battle.
That's the way it should be. I thought I'd surprise you because I used my wood elves and really enjoying using them actually. But I thought as I've been painting my dwarves up, a lot of vintage ones as well as newer ones, I thought I'd give them a try.
Yes, so let's have a look at our armies first of all, and then once we've had a quick look over those, we'll dive into this very exciting custom scenario we're doing as well, to commemorate the occasion of Dwarf versus Dwarf. So, this is my list first of all, and you'll notice immediately that Bugman's pony cart was furiously painted the night before. It took me 6 hours to get that thing finished. And
well, he's solid job there and nicely magnetised.
There, he's not magnetised.
He's not. He's soldered on or something.
Yeah, it was quite difficult to assemble this miniature. Being polite, that's how I would describe it. But it was fun to paint though. So, my list, I've got it pulled up here. So, we've got the Anvil of Doom, of course. And since I didn't know I was playing Dwarves, I've actually kitted it out with loads of anti-magic runes, but there's no point in telling you all about those because they're totally useless. I've got 3 different runes on there that were supposed to deny magic. So I've spent 85 points on runes there that I can't even use in this game because there is no magic coming back at me. We've got a Dwarf Engineer who is perched at the back there with a handgun, and this Engineer has the rune of Concussive Force, which is the Stupidity gun. So if you score a hit on an enemy unit, they become stupid for the next turn. So it's not the best against dwarves because they've got notoriously high leadership, but you never know, could be useful. Then we've got my Thane BSB, and the BSB has not only the Master Rune of Grungni for a 5+ ward save for the unit he's in, but also the Rune of Confusion, which when combined with the Master Rune of Hesitation that the Hammerers have, means that if you charge into that unit in the front, not only do you not get your initiative bonus, you also can't use any special rules for charging, such as impact hits or lances. And anyone who knows Hammerers knows that if you hit Hammerers in the front anyway, they gain +1 initiative and +1 attack. So that is a unit that Mr. Remington will not be looking to charge into the front. Then, into the core of the army, we've got 12 Dwarf Warriors with hand weapon and shield and command. We have got 16 Rangers, fully kitted out with all the upgrades, crossbows, great weapons, shields, throwing axes, and the command. No musician though, because I don't have that model yet. Hopefully they bring that back on Made to Order at some point. That would be nice, wouldn't it? Then 12 Thunderers here, with a champion, and that's the only piece of command they've got. This is a Dwarf Grand Army, by the way. It's not the Royal Clan or the Engineers Expeditionary Force. We've got 3 Gyrocopters with steam guns, which I'm enjoying a bit at the moment. Using the other weapons, I find that they just miss all the time. So with a steam gun, at least you can just drop the template down where you want, and if you're covering something, you've just hit it. So it's nice and straightforward. Then the Hammerers, who as mentioned, make up the other part of the combo with the Master Rune of Hesitation, but they also have, and this is where you might glimpse into what my strategy is going to be for the game, they also have the Stroller's Rune, which means that they can make a vanguard move before the game. So they can move forwards a mighty 3 inches.
So it's just one time?
Yes, right at the start of the game, move 3 inches forward.
Jesus.
So the plan there is, of course, because of the anvil and the pony cart adds +1 to movement, and the anvil can theoretically give them another move in the movement phase. The Hammerers are also drilled. So they're going to start the game in marching column, they're going to do a 3-inch vanguard move, then in the first turn they're going to be near the pony cart so they can march a mighty 12 inches forwards across the table, and because they're drilled, when the anvil gives them a second move in the movement phase, they can then go back to being wide again, and then make a further move, still near enough to the pony cart by then, because that can keep up with them. It's pretty quick. And then they can move another 8 inches forwards while being wide. So, that unit of dwarves have just gone 23 inches across the table, and they're 8 dwarves wide and ready to fight.
It sounds very gamey to me, Andy, that.
It sounds terrifying. Then we've got, obviously, Bugman's pony cart for +1 movement, and it can do a little bit of fighting, but not much. It's only 65 points, though. We've got 2 units of 5 Iron Drakes with Trollhammer Torpedo and Cinderblast Bombs. And then we've got the Doomseeker, the legendary slayer Alric Big Butts at the back there, to Doomseek his way into the battle. Doomseekers, of course, if you kill them from the enemy's perspective, then you don't score anything for them, but if you let them live, then you do score. So if you're playing against them, you just want to avoid them, or just kill them and then forget about them. Don't worry about them, but you won't score any points.
They get the D3 impact hits, don't they, when they charge?
They do impact hits. They've got a nice number of attacks, and if you let them actually fight you, then they can be pretty good at fighting for only 50 points.
So looking at your army, Andy, I don't feel like I'm afraid of any units apart from those rangers fully kitted out and your hammerers, and of course the anvil. So they're the 3 sort of deadly units for me looking at that army. The gyrocopters are just buzzing flies in my eyes. But yeah.
Yes, so gyrocopters aren't... Well, in some ways, they're not bad in a dwarf versus dwarf matchup, because you don't normally have access to get all the way across the other side of the table and hassle things with dwarves, unless you take gyrocopters. But on the other hand, the things you're going to be hassling are all toughness 4, so the chance of actually wounding them with a gyrocopter is quite slim with their steam gun or in combat. So it's a mixed bag as far as the gyrocopter is concerned. Shall we go on to the Remington forces of the Carrack Remington?
Beautiful army. This is the true Longbeard army here, and we start off. Where do you want to start, Andy?
Well, let's start with this photo here. So it looks like you've got a mismatch unit here. You've got various dwarf lords of legend. So do you want to tell us what's going on in that block?
We've got 11 or 12 dwarf warriors, heavy armor, great weapons, and 1 champion in there. But the guy in the middle, that is my king, and he is the general. He's got a great weapon, full plate armor. He's got the Master Rune of Gromril, which gives him a 2-up save. And he's got the Master Rune of Smiting, which does D6 wounds, I believe, if I get a wound through.
Now, isn't it correct that you can only use runic abilities on a hand weapon and not on a great weapon?
Oh.
Is that true?
Is that true?
I don't think I've tried to do it because I assumed that was the case, but we'll see if that comes up in the game anyway. And now, who is this? Who is this engineer-y looking fellow you've got here?
That is Burlock Daminson. He is a dwarf engineer hero, I guess you could say. He has got heavy armor, the furnace hammer, which you roll a
artillery dice.
Artillery dice to determine the strength of the hit. So you can get, strength 8, strength 10. Can you even get a 10?
Yep.
You could possibly get a 10. If you roll a misfire, then you're going to take a wound.
Yes,
so that sounds great, but he's only got 2 attacks.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a gimmick because 2 strength 10 attacks are okay, but you're not really going to kill much with that.
No, weapon skill 4, strength 4. It's not great, but on paper it looked good to start with. And he also has a rivet gun, which you'd think would be pretty good if it's on a hero, but it's only got range 10. It's strength 3, armor piercing 2.
Yeah, so that's not great against dwarves either. But the one thing that is good is that you stick him in a unit, stick him with those thunderers, for example, and they don't suffer any penalties for shooting at long range, which they usually are shooting at, especially early in the game.
Yeah, that's good. That rune, that's called range finding optics. So
yes,
it's good with near a war machine as well. But I stuck him in with a unit of thunderers. So there you go. They're my two heroes.
Good evening to Raphael and Bad Squiddo and Wraith. Hello.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a delightful war machine here. Now, am I right in thinking this is fine cast?
It's fine cast. It was a right mess to paint, but I managed to disguise the blobbiness with some forage on the base. A bit of from my everything box, just stuck it on there. Looks all right in the end. Yeah, so that's first time using the old spear chucker or bolt thrower, as dwarves like to say. So yeah, we've got a bolt thrower there. Yeah, it's got the rune of skewering, which is devastating on paper. Why? Because it gives +1 modifier to the strength. In addition, no armor save is permitted against wounds caused by a bolt thrower inscribed with the rune of skewering.
Yes, so
Ward and
that's...
generation saves as normal, but that's great against something like your hammers, I suppose, right?
Well, if you can get side onto any unit with a bolt thrower to skewer more of the ranks, it's going to be very good. My army
Yeah.
isn't particularly heavily armoured for a dwarf army, but still, denying the saves entirely, still good.
Yeah, but you've only got one shot per turn, haven't you? So you're rolling a d6 at bow skill 3. You're often going to need a 5 or a 6 to hit. So
Yes,
it's a long shot, but if you get it, it can be good.
indeed. Now you've got another war machine at the back there, which looks like a bit of a classic machine.
That is a classic marauder. It's an orc mangler. I think it's an orc, not the mangler, but it's
Some other flavour of mangler.
stone thrower for my dwarves, and that's just basic. Doesn't have any runes on it.
Excellent. Now, what about this unit of... Are these ones ski bore?
These are Polish ski ball miniatures. I'm going to be using these fine golden ladies as my iron breakers. I've not given them cinder blast bombs, so yeah, they are just iron breakers with a standard. They've got the rune of speed, or the champion has the rune of the champion has the rune of speed, which gives them +1 initiative. It was just because I had 5 points left over to do something with them.
Yep, so a unit of 10 of those.
Yep.
And then Gemmel has complemented your crossbow models here.
Oh yeah, so I recently got these from eBay, some old marauder quarrelers. But these are there's not really a big unit of them, but I painted all the ones I've got. I'm on the lookout for some more. So I've padded it out with a couple of Dwarf Lords of Legend. And yeah, they are just standard quarrelers, so they've only got heavy armor. Nothing special about them.
Yeah, I think I used to have a couple of these quarrelers, but most of my old metal ones were the GW ones that came just after this. I don't know if you remember those, where some of them had the end of the crossbow was a separate piece that you would stick on.
Yes. I've seen those about. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I like these ones best. So there's a few more that I need to get before I get the set, but yeah, loving those quarrelers.
Now, what about these hammerers? With a
So we've got
fantastic freehand banner work there as well.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. I must have painted that almost 10 years ago, these guys. So yeah, 15 hammerers with, I think I've kitted them out fully. Yeah, Royal Champion, Standard Bearer Musician. I've got the Rune of Confusion on the Standard Bearer. What does that do, you might ask? Well, any enemy unit that charges the front arc makes a disordered charge. What does that mean, Andy?
Yes, that means you're not going to be getting your initiative bonus. So what we're looking at here is 2 units of hammerers that do not want to charge each other. Because whichever one of them charges is going to be striking last and with half as many attacks as their opponent.
Now, the only problem is, Andy, that one of those hammer units, i.e. yours, has really high movement shenanigans, has a hero and a thane in there, and has a magical banner with a ward save.
Yes.
And is probably going to make mincemeat of mine because yours is also drilled, and I didn't pay the points to make mine drilled. So, what does drilled do again? If anyone's wondering.
Drilled allows you to redress the ranks before you make any move, so you can add or take away 5 models from the front rank. So you can go really wide, or you can go narrow and maybe get into a marching column and then move faster during the turn. So if the two hammer units do come up against each other, mine would be the favourite because I've invested more points into them, so they're more heavily upgraded than this one. But still, neither one would want to hit the other in the front, really.
Yeah, I didn't want to put my king in this unit because whenever I've played you with the dwarves, I always avoid these sort of Death Star units. I didn't want to be, that guy with the Death Star that no one wants to go near it because why have a fight?
That is a valid concern. If you make a unit too powerful, people will avoid it.
Yeah. Then we've got my gyro bomber. Well, you think this could be good, but then you read the rules and you read them again, and you're like, is it really that good? So you've only got movement 8 with the gyro bomber as opposed to movement 10 or 9.
It's 9 for the regular copters, 10 for the scout copter.
And this costs more points. Why? Well, it has the gun options that the gyrocopters have. I've chosen the brimstone gun, which is, I think it's D3 plus 1 shots. A little bit cheaper than the clatter gun, which is D6. But it also has a bombing run. So basically, you move over a unit, and you basically roll a D6. And that determines what's happened to your bomb. On a 1 or a 2, it's a dud, or it hurts you. A 3 or 4 is a direct hit, which is a large template over the unit. And a 5 or a 6 is 2 small templates.
It's too random, really, isn't it? Too random.
They don't actually do much damage because I think does the missile move? Is there some sort of movement thing? I can't remember. But basically, it hasn't really got enough movement to fly over a unit all the time. So, yeah, I'm going to try it out, though. What the hell? I've got the model.
And then you've got a couple of Iron Drake units to match up with mine.
Yep. Both with troll hammers, which is like a rocket launcher, I suppose you could describe it as.
Yeah, but you don't have Cinderblast bombs. So we'll see if that comes up. And also, yours are posed a bit more interestingly than mine as well. You've got the champions with the 2 pistols on the model, but obviously representing Trollhammer Torpedo, because you wouldn't be able to leave home without 2 Trollhammer Torpedoes. And
Armando says dwarves don't kill dwarves. Why are you doing this? Sad rune noises. Well, perhaps it's I don't know. It's an old grudge over some. Well, we're going to tell you with the scenario.
We'll tell you exactly what it is in a minute, but would you like to describe this rather unique unit you've got here that looks a little bit piratey?
Announced, but you couldn't get any models, and there was an ever so long delay. And I liked the look of these Highland miniatures dwarf pirates. So I was hoping there'd be some sort of piratey unit in either the dwarf book or in the Arcane Journal, but there wasn't. I found that out too late, but I bought some lovely dwarf pirates, which come out really nice, and I'm using them as thunderers. So there's a unit of 15 of these guys with full command.
Yes, I suppose you could also run them as slayers, since slayer pirates exist, or you could potentially run them as the Dragon Company as well, since they have pistols.
Yeah, they are lacking armor on the models, but I have purchased. Well, I didn't purchase; they just come with heavy armor. So there you go.
And then, what is this unit here? This looks a bit long-beardy to me.
Yes, these are 15 dwarf longbeards with full command and no runes.
Well, there you go, and another magnificent freehand banner.
Yes, that's my favourite one.
Much more stylish than my banners.
Yeah, it's before my eyes started getting dim that I need a big magnifying glass to paint now.
Okay, I think that is all of the units.
Yeah,
So,
well, we've got another unit of Thunderers. Don't know if you got a
oh
photo
yeah,
of
I think
those.
they were lurking in the background of one of the other photos, but there are,
Yeah,
yeah, 2 units of Thunderers in there. You can see some of
yeah,
them here.
yeah. They are old Marauder figures. Brilliant. Love them.
Yes,
And if you can spot the swivel gun, I've put in there. Classic
yes.
miniature.
Let's see if we've got a better shot of that unit. Yeah, you can see it there, the swivel gun. Very nice. I definitely had a few of these back in the day.
Yeah, you used to get two in a blister pack for £2.50, but
Definitely
these
had some
sell
of
for
these Thunderers.
these are like 20 quid now. Yeah, love them, and I've been painting them for the last couple of weeks, so it's good to see them on the table. Let's see what they can do.
So, here is the terrain laid out with the armies on it, and I'll tell you exactly what kind of little mission we're playing here. So, a dwarven king that died many years ago, his ancestry has been thrown into question as 2 rival dwarven mountain holds are looking to claim his territory, his lands, and probably his big chair as well. So, the only way to determine who are the rightful heirs to this guy's fortune is going to be to head over to his tomb and find some of his bones for a proper examination by neutral third parties. However, depending on who you ask, is there really a neutral third party when it comes to dwarves and their ancestral rights? I would say no.
No,
So
no,
whoever gets
it's black and white with dwarves, isn't it? It's do or die.
So whoever gets hold of those bones is going to be able to take them to their own team of experts, who will then undoubtedly say, yes, your clan, Clan Andy or Clan Remington, you're the rightful heirs. So, instead of just doing the standard mission, where there's something in the middle to fight for that gives you a piddly bonus of about 200 points at the end, we thought, why don't we make it 500 instead? So it's actually significant. So 500 victory points. If you hold the centre, and it's kind of easier to hold it as well, compared to the standard game mission, it's whoever has the most unit strength within 6 inches of the centre. So even if you've got a unit that's only got 1 model left in it, that's going to be worth 1. If you've got another unit nearby that's worth 12, then you'll have a total of 13. So whoever's got the most, then they claim the old king's bones. There you go. That's good enough reason for 2 dwarf armies fighting, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely. Looking at the 2 armies, it sort of favours me because I've got bigger blocks of units. So if I can get them into the centre, it will be all gravy. However, I can see you've got an Anvil of Doom behind a hedge there, and you've got some nasty gyrocopters, and you've got a horrible group of rangers sneakily strung out vanguarded across the front, which is going to make it difficult for me.
Yes, so my vanguard moves, the gyrocopters have moved up, the hammerers have moved up 3 inches in their marching column, ready to yeet themselves across the table, as the kids say these days. And what I'm thinking is I wanted to keep them away from the enemy hammerers, because it's no good getting there and then realising I don't actually want to charge the enemy unit that's sitting right in front of me, because they're just going to eventually get whittled down by all your shooting. So I've matched them up with something that they would like to very much kill, which is a unit of Thunderers that aren't technically on the hill yet, but they will be moving onto the hill. They just wouldn't balance very well. So they're actually a little bit further back right now. But going to yeet straight across towards those Thunderers, kill them, and then turn around and start munching through the rest of the army. That's the grand plan for the dwarves, with the assistance of the anvil to give them that extra movement. The pony cart is right nearby as well, so that can go up alongside them. And on this side, I've noticed that Mr. Remington has a couple of shooty units, but we've got this hill in the way. So I've not put much in a position where it can be shot, and I'm going to kind of camp out behind this hill and see if he wants to come forward, because he's got more resources dedicated on this side of the table down here than I do. So if he's too scared to come up on the hill, I'll happily just write these 3 units out of the game.
Yeah, it's a tricky situation for me because anything within 27 inch of that Anvil of Doom is likely to be struck with your magic missile, which is absolutely devastating. Basically 2d6 wounds, right?
Yes, especially against units that don't have great armor saves, then it's very dangerous because it is actually -2 on the AP.
And it's automatic hits, so it kind of, the cover doesn't make any difference. So so I've kept them well away. But unfortunately, there's a watchtower and a hill in the way. So the idea is get on top of the hill and stay there. Maybe I can get some easy shots down. However, getting to the hill is going to be a problem because dwarves only have movement 3, 6 on the march, and if I move and shoot, it means I'm ponderous, which is a -2 to hit. So it's going to be very difficult to shoot on the way to getting on that hill. Meanwhile, I could be getting shot at. So that looks tricky for me on the left-hand side, with a big unit of Thunderers there as well that are shielding my warriors. And then we've got the Bolt Thrower. We've got the Hammerers in the middle that I've put there so they can get to the objective and hopefully sit there. I've got my Gyro Bomber to maybe counter his Gyrocopter on the other side. There you go. There's the Quarrelers there. Yes, there's my large group of Thunderers. And next to the Longbeards, which are going to be heading towards the center, is my Stone Thrower.
I notice you've given that a good view of the entire battlefield. So there's more chance of it hitting if it can see its targets. So that's nice.
Yes. Yes. Next to the Stone Thrower, I've got my Iron Breakers there, being shielded by the Iron Drakes. I've moved them as far as I could forward before the first turn. And next to those are the Hammerers. I thought perhaps I could soften up Andy's Hammerers with these Dwarves on the hill, Thunderers. And once they're softened up, I'll come in with my own Hammerers and maybe get to drop a bomb on his unit as well.
Wouldn't that be delightful? Now, one thing I should point out as well, these Rangers are in skirmish formation here, so just because they're all touching, doesn't matter, they're skirmishing. The reason for that is because Remington's massed hordes of shooting models are going to be -1 to hit for skirmish. So that's the most important thing. So the Rangers...
So long range already, right?
Yeah.
Long range -1.
Although not if it's the unit with your special engineer in there, Mr. Damington.
Yes, true. Except it... Is it? Yes, he is in that unit on the left. However, long range and moving and shooting makes it -3. So you're looking at 7s to hit already, right?
Yeah, so they ignore the long range if they've got him in the unit, but then if you're shooting at a skirmishing unit, then you're already on -3 if you're moving. So ideally, you're looking for positions where you don't have to move with your shooting units.
Which sucks. So I'm wondering, how do I even take out that unit? Because I need to get close enough to be able to shoot them.
Well, when I saw your deployment, I was thinking, maybe, because you've got the shooting superiority probably here. You've got more shooting units than I do. And this is the area we want to contest to score. So I would have just loaded up the middle with the shooting units, give them a nice clear shot past here. Because we did establish that the central King's Tomb, you can draw a line of sight through it, but it would be light cover for the smoke coming up out of the pyres at his bone chamber. So I thought a load of shooting units in the middle with that, because
probably a good idea in hindsight.
Because your infantry shooting units, I don't think a gyrocopter is going to take them out. I think dwarves are too hardy, so a unit of 10, a gyrocopter isn't that much of a concern to them, I would suggest. And then the combat units maybe on the flanks, sweeping round into like a pincer movement if anyone comes into the centre to deal with your shooting units. That's what I was thinking.
But you see, what you don't want is to get in range of those rangers. If you charge them, they're going to get you with their throwing axes or a stand and shoot. If they charge you, then they're coming in with their double-handed weapons.
Yes.
They are an absolutely deadly unit. And usually, I would be looking at taking them out with my Wild Riders in a flank charge, or a screening unit to eat up the stand and shoot, and then come in with my Wild Riders, and then a sort of an anvil unit. However, I don't have that sort of movement with this army, so I'm going to just try and pepper them with shots and try and whittle them down. But the gyrocopters might have something to say about that. Let's see.
On the plus side for you, since they're in skirmish formation now, if they do start fighting, they're not going to be fighting with the entire front rank. They will have to form up behind those that are touching.
Right.
So, Mr. Remington wins the roll-off and is going first. So we're going to have to wait to see the Hammerers march across the table in marching column. So for your first turn, the gyro bomber has moved out a little bit, waiting to shoot.
Yeah, I'm going to try and take some pot shots at something, probably a gyrocopter. I get my dwarves fully on the hill. I'm not sure if they're in range to shoot anything. Perhaps they can shoot the gyrocopter as well as the iron drakes on the far side there. All very nice. Ready to shoot. If Andy wants to do his movement shenanigans with his hammerers, I've probably got a shot at them with my thunderers and maybe even a stand and shoot. And the hammerers can come in for a flank charge. That's the plan there. The iron breakers would be a third unit to back them up potentially.
Yes. And
Move my longbeards forward in the towards the objective there.
There they are.
I've marched them up. Yeah, that's about it really.
It's a general
moving up.
Slightly slow advance because you also want to be able to shoot.
Yeah, this is annoying. Those little bits of scenery, meaning that I can't fully see the unit of skirmishers that Anders put down.
Yes, and shall we fill the people in on exactly how that little piece of terrain came to be there? So I set up the battlefield pretty even, hill on both sides, a hill in the middle here, a few hedges equally distributed, and then Rem said, like, hey, I've got this cool little ruins, let's stick that down here. Drops it on the table, and now it's blocking up half his army.
What a numpty.
So, although technically it's only really this unit that's too wide and is annoyed by it right now.
Yeah, perhaps I should have broke them off into 2 units rather than one big one, but hey-ho.
One deployment compliment that I'll give you is that you didn't leave any space for my unit of 16 rangers to come in behind your lines, which would have been very annoying to deal with for dwarves.
Yes.
Especially because your only war machines are a bolt thrower and a grudge thrower, which aren't ideal at dealing with things behind you compared to like an organ gun, because a bolt thrower is likely to miss, even at close range. Grudge thrower, you're not going to hit that many skirmishing rangers. So
no, that was completely accidental, Andy. I'd like to think that was a masterstroke, but it wasn't.
Well, you're shooting, even though you're moving, so you're going to be ponderous with most of them. I'm not sure if these ones actually moved. But
I think I needed 7s to hit you, which is a roll of a 6.
Oh yeah, I think you did. You did move because these are thunderers, aren't they? So to get in range, you would have had to move, and you did manage to kill 1 ranger. Now, the interesting thing about this is because you couldn't see the entire unit because there's a piece of terrain blocking your view, then that means you're a further -1 to hit on most of the models. Some of them might have had an unobscured view on a model by model basis. So as a result of all that, 1 ranger is dead. And that is about the extent of it. You'll notice that, by the way, I've got my Doomseeker hiding. That's because if he just gets shot by, like, a gyro bomber or a small unit of thunderers, then he's not really contributing anything, and I want him to get into the action in this game, so that's why he's hiding. But
I think I might have taken a wound off your gyrocopter on the right-hand side.
I think you did as well. I think we'll get a picture of that shortly. So, that's the end of your first turn, and you do have the bodies to claim the old king's bone. But they are distributed across the table at the moment, so we'll see whether it stays that way or whether you can converge on the centre and lay claim to the royal femur. So yeah, you did do a wound to the gyrocopter there because it's got 2 left, and as we're into my turn, this is where the hammerers are now. So with the assistance of the pony cart and the anvil and drilled, they are now like 2 or 3 inches away from that unit of thunderers. And because you, if we go back and look, you actually put your hammerers over here as well. So I don't want to get into range, particularly where they're going to be like a flank threat to me. So I've made sure that they're still in my front. So if they flank charge, then they don't care about any of these fancy banners I've got that are front rank reliant. And also the hammerers, if they're charged in the flank, they don't get some of their other bonuses. So I don't want to be hitting the flank, making sure they're in the front. And the hammerers do not want to charge my hammerers. That would not go well for them. And they're going to have 1 turn to shoot at me, these thunderers. See how many they can kill with the hammerers armor save. Because I think I've given mine shields as well. So 4 up save, 5 up ward. And if you don't kill quite a few of them, they're about to make mincemeat of that unit. Because they can go even wider than this on the charge as well. They could add another 5 to the front rank before they go in with drilled.
It's very scary. It looks like a nice setup for the gyro bomber though.
Yes.
To fly over and drop his payload.
Indeed. So my Iron Drakes are moving into a position to strike. This one's heading for the hill. And my Iron Drakes kill one of your Iron Drakes. Now, we do discover pretty quickly that Iron Drakes are not ideal at killing other Iron Drakes. Because they've got a good strength and a good ballistic skill, so they're good at hitting and wounding each other. However, they also have flaming attacks, which is the one thing that Iron Drakes get a ward save against. So if you're making an army to kill enemy Iron Drakes, maybe your own Iron Drakes aren't the best for that, because you are giving them a ward save.
No, I think it's basically 5 versus 5, or 2 lots of 5 versus 2 lots of 5. You generally kill one per shooting round each.
Yes, those ward saves are quite significant. So my Rangers unleash their firepower and they kill 5 of your Longbeards. So my thinking is, if I can whittle down all these units in the middle, then when it does come to combat, because I've only got a unit of Warriors and a Doomseeker in the middle, and they're not going to put out massive damage on their own. So, and the Rangers, because they're in skirmish mode, aren't quite as good in combat as they usually are, so their shooting is going to be more of a big deal, I think.
I think your steam gun might have took out a couple too.
Yeah, I think the steam gun definitely assisted there. My Thunderers move up right behind the hill, hiding from all your guns, basically. And my Gyrocopter on the side is going up on the hill, not because it's got a death wish, but because it wants to get into a position where it can charge the enemy dwarf war machines. So if you don't kill this Gyrocopter, that's what it's gunning for, because it's on a hill, so it can see right over you, it can fly right in there and charge in, smash, right into the bolt thrower.
Yes, I think I was distracted by the Rangers, but I wasn't looking at that. I thought you would be focusing on the units in front of it. So
yes, because I think a gyro
Pluralers are a bit of a no man's land situation over there now.
I think these gyros are a decent option at going after dwarf war machines. The crew are toughness 4, so I wouldn't necessarily do that many wounds to them, but the chance of the dwarf war machine crew wounding a gyrocopter is very slim. So I think in a couple of turns it should be able to kill one war machine. Hello to Stu, good evening, in the chat there. So here's the wide view of the battlefield, and what I'm thinking at the moment is that Mr. Remington is not going to charge in with the hammerers here, because his hammerers charging into the front of my hammerers would get annihilated, because I'd go up to 2 attacks each, and I'd be striking first. So I'd probably wipe the front rank, and then he wouldn't be able to hit me. He's stubborn, so it'd go to the next round, and I think I would just keep beating them. He's probably going to want to shoot them as well, so you can't charge in that instance. So the Thunderers on the hill probably going to shoot them. Gyro Bomber's probably going to drop a bomb on them, because we know that Mr. Remington has been itching to try out bombing runs, so I've given him the perfect chance there. In the centre, I'm kind of hoping that one of these combat units comes through the gap, because it's going to cause a little bit of a choke point. They're not going to be able to get multiple units through there at once, so the first one in gets hit by everything, and maybe gets weakened, and then it's just causing a blockage for the stronger units to not be able to get through. On this side, I don't have any combat units at all in this big lane here, but it's really far away from the hammerers and the ironbreakers, so I'm quite happy to just keep having a shootout here with the Anvil of Doom as well. So I think that gives the edge to me in this area, because you've only got 5 Iron Drakes to shoot on this side, assuming the Thunderers aren't going to be contributing to the firepower versus firepower display here. So I think I've got the edge with the Anvil. And you don't have any way of stopping my spells in your list at all, apart from 1 Fated Dispel. You haven't taken a single Runesmith in the list.
No, I didn't want to make it too many things for me to remember, or not remember, if you know what I mean. It's my first time.
Yes, you can see this gyrocopter has landed here. The reason for that is because what I'm thinking is that one of these Remington units is going to try and charge, and I'm just going to flee. So they're going to be caught out of position behind the King's Tomb and into the shooting gallery of the Anvil and all my Iron Drakes on this side. So that's the plan. So we'll see if that works. Into turn 2 for Mr. Remington. So it does work, but they don't actually charge very far. So this, I think you probably rolled about 3 on the dice for these Longbeards, so they didn't go far at all.
No.
And
I thought I'd double up and go with the iron breakers as well. Probably a mistake.
Yeah, the iron breakers are kind of wedged behind the iron drakes now.
Now they are behind some nice cover, but they're probably in range for the anvil, which is scary.
Yeah, the hammerers there, I believe you're referring to. So the hammerers are just repositioning themselves so that when my hammerers charge into the thunderers on the hill, they will then have the option of going into the flank the next turn. So we'll see if that proves to be significant, whether that puts me off charging into the hill thunderers or not. Gyrocopters fleeing, I'm never too concerned about it because they are leadership 9, so on average you're going to be rallying pretty quick. And then you can still shoot in the turn that you've rallied, so that's good. And the bombing run. So, what do you accomplish with your bombing run? Can I exclusively reveal that you did nothing with the bomb? Killed absolutely nobody?
Yeah, it was dreadful. It was really, really weak. Why, you might ask? Well, I did score. It wasn't a direct hit, but it was 2d3 round template hits over the unit, which sounds like it could be good, right? So I'm just looking at the bombing run rules, and yes, bombs away. A cluster of bombs is released, falling over a wide area. Place 2 small 3-inch blast tapes so that the central hole is over the enemy unit. Sounds great, right? But once placed, each template will scatter d6. What? Any model whose base lies underneath a template, single strength 4 hit.
It is just not very good, the gyro bomber. The bombing run is not a very well thought out rule, I think.
No, so you think you get the hit, but then it scatters 6 inches, so now it's not where you wanted it to be. And so only a couple model could get hit, and it's only a strength 4 hit, which you're probably going to save with your high armor and your ward save and your Gromril armor or whatever,
Might I suggest that what would be better would be if you roll the artillery dice and maybe it just drops that many bombs, and forget templates. That's just how many small bombs are dropped. Or you can do like the big bomb where it does drop a template and it has a small like scattered D3 or something. But also if you drop the big bomb you might blow up. Or you blow up if you have a misfire, you lose some wounds.
Yeah, I mean,
there's all kinds of things they could do.
If you roll a 3 or 4, you get a what's called a direct hit, and it's a large 5-inch template. You think, brilliant. But then you've got to scatter that 6-inch automatically. So actually it's not a direct hit.
Yeah, so the chances of that still landing on the target are quite high, though, because it's a big template. But that's only a 1 in 3 chance that you're actually going to get that result. And that's its entire job. So I don't like those odds. Especially because the amount of commitment you have to put into actually delivering the bombs as well. It's not like a bolt throw, where even if it's only going to hit once every game, it's safe and miles from the enemy. This thing's getting right in there, having to get close to the enemy, close enough to fly over them. And then the table is just so random. I just don't think it's very good.
It probably would have been better for me to shoot them with my brimstone gun, because that's got armor piercing 2, it's got strength 5, and D3 plus 1. So I'm guaranteed at least 2 shots.
Yeah, so maybe that would have been better.
Maybe. But even so, even if I got all those, I mean, I'd be lucky to kill maybe 3 models. So it was a bit rubbish. Probably better to just charge in and get some impact hits and charge in with another unit on the flank. So you'd use up your 2 attacks when you get charged on the gyrocopter rather than another unit. Don't know.
Now, what we did spot though is that your iron drakes were blocking the view of the bolt thrower. So this 8 wide unit of hammerers. And once that was pointed out, you very quickly moved the iron drakes out of the way so you could take on this pot shot, which isn't likely to hit because it's a bolt thrower. But if it does hit, it starts off at strength 7 with no armor saves allowed, working its way down. So it'd only have a 5-up ward save to protect them. So you could potentially clear out a few of them if that hits, and that would be quite scary. In conjunction with all the thunderers that are going to shoot me from the hill as well.
Yeah, and my iron drakes have got a good shot against your fleeing gyrocopter as well.
Yes. And the gyrocopter on
Uh,
this hill is shot by everything, but I think they all miss. I think you just have a bad round there and don't do anything.
yeah.
So this gyrocopter's still healthy. The other one, though, has been killed by your iron drakes, which is sad. And this one didn't really accomplish much. It moved up, dropped its flame template, and it might have actually killed one of your iron drakes with it. But
I
that's
think
it.
you did that in turn one. That's funny, isn't it? 5 iron drakes kill a gyrocopter, but 15 thunderers and 10 quarrelers don't wound your other gyrocopter.
I would say that is hilarious, yes. Now, the one that was fleeing, you do get down to 1 wound as well with these iron drakes. So if you want good shooting
Yeah,
with dwarves, the higher ballistic skill units, the iron drakes and the rangers, definitely seem to be significantly more powerful than the quarrelers and the thunderers. But
yeah.
obviously you've got more options to take those as core, generally.
Yeah, I wanted to take rangers, but they don't have any ranger models. So
Yeah,
that
so you just have
sucks.
to use any kind of crossbow-wielding dwarves, don't you?
Yeah,
Then we've
yeah,
got your grudge thrower, which manages to kill
yes.
1 dwarf warrior and 1 ranger after it's scattered from the warriors and landed on both units.
Yeah, that could have been a beautiful hit if it was a direct hit, but yes, it did scatter. I was still pleased. It got some casualties off you.
Yes, whittling them down. And then we haven't got any charges yet, have we? So we don't have combat just yet. But I do lose 2 hammerers to the shooting barrage from the hill. And the bolt thrower did not hit this turn. So, before we get onto my turn 2, let's look at the state of play and discuss what my thoughts are at this stage. So, the hammerers are definitely going to attempt to charge into the thunderers on the hill. They're going to go a little bit wider as well and try and kill them in one go, and then turn around to face the enemy hammerers. The pony cart, it's kind of served its purpose now. So what I'm thinking is, charge it straight into the iron drakes. Because if it survives the stand and shoot, then it's tying up that shooting unit, because I don't know whether they would kill it in combat. They might, but I think it's worth the risk, so I'm going to throw it in there, because it's done its job. Chuck it into the iron drakes, see if it can survive.
You didn't want to charge the gyro bomber, did you? Because you just realised how useless it is.
Well, I did, actually. My plan was to charge the gyro bomber with something else.
Right.
But I don't think it's this turn, because this gyrocopter is fleeing, so that can't charge this turn.
So I've given you a nice quandary at the top right there, because your hammerers could easily charge the thunderers. I would get a stand and shoot, which could get a couple of casualties from you.
Yep.
Or I could turn and run and flee, meaning you could be left out in the open if you can't redirect.
Well, my plan
Into
was,
my
in that
hammer.
case, I could either redirect into your hammerers, which would be risky because I'd be hitting you in the front and you'd go first, or I could try and redirect into the iron drakes and deny them a stand and shoot.
Yeah.
What I'm thinking on this side is the rangers are just going to keep shooting you, whittling you down, same for the anvil, and you can see the weird traffic jam you've got yourself into here with the units behind each other and behind this rock. So I'm also going to charge the gyrocopter into the bolt thrower. So, let me just wind it back. So yeah, I actually did cheat in this turn, but thankfully I got no reward for it. So the gyrocopter that I rallied, I then forgot that I'd rallied it and then charged it into your gyro bomber. And as I was describing it being fleeing, I thought, wait a minute, didn't I charge that thing? And yes, I actually did. So blatant cheating. So you
Okay.
do flee with the thunderers on the hill. The hammerers still have a chance of catching you, though. But
Yeah.
as you can see, they don't catch you. They don't go anywhere near far enough. So
Yeah.
now they're standing out in front of your hammerers. And the iron drakes. Your iron drakes kill off the pony cart with a stand and shoot, which is quite
That's
funny.
nice.
But
They are the MVPs at the minute, them guys.
there you go. So they've killed the copter. The other gyrocopter that illegally charged into the gyro bomber gets killed by the bomber in combat. It was on its last wound, though. So
I think I did a stand and shoot, maybe.
I think you did, but it failed. It was only in combat that you finished it off, I think.
Right. Okay.
My iron drakes, you can see whenever I've got this token next to a unit, it means that the anvil has buffed up their armor. So it's the skull, so in this case it's just re-rolling armor saves. And they kill another one of your Iron Drakes opposite them.
Mhm.
So they're just having this ineffective shooting match against each other, not killing very many each time. But you can see 5 Hammerers are dead. That is because the
Okay.
Anvil of Doom unleashes its fury, the Rune of Wrath and Ruin, and kills
That
5
is
Hammerers.
ridiculous. 2d6 automatic hits. So that's on average 6. Is it strength 4, Andy?
Yeah, on average you're getting about 7, so you'd probably wound about 3 or 4 dwarves. And
Yeah, I've
then,
only got 5 up save, I think.
yeah, so your Hammerers
4
won't even
actually.
get a save against it because you don't have a ward save or shields. So just
Yeah.
5 of them dead immediately. The Rangers then unleash and kill a couple more Longbeards, whittling that unit down. And the shooting hasn't been too devastating yet from either side, except for that one anvil barrage onto the Hammerers there. And I can see your line is a bit of a weird zigzag situation going on. My line is a bit more cohesive, except for the Hammerers, obviously, whose entire strategy is to blast themselves across the table turn 1. The Doomseeker now is in a position where he's eyeing up charges, so I'm waiting to find out whether you want to kill him or not, or whether you're going to risk him getting into combat. What are your thoughts on the Doomseeker at this point? You can see him lurking there. Are you thinking I'm going to try and leave him alone and score the points, or are you thinking about targeting him?
I don't actually have a clear shot at him.
There would be cover because of the smoke from the King's Bone.
And he's a skirmisher, or he's a lone unit,
Yes.
so it's -2.
And
so it was the only thing I could shoot it with would be my Iron Drakes, but I would need a 5 to hit. He's got 2 wounds. I've only got 3 of guys left. My bolt thrower has now been charged because I stupidly moved my warriors out of the sort of defense position it was, because I just wanted to get bodies near the objective. And
yes,
I didn't think that gyrocopter would survive. But yeah, it's just leapfrogged all my units and gone straight into the bolt thrower. So the bolt thrower's only had 1 shot in the whole game.
and now 2 of the crew are dead after that as well, so it's still in combat. Because of
Yeah,
course,
so Andy had these impact hits with the gyrocopters, right, and also the Doomseeker. I just want to say now, every time he rolled D3, he rolled for 3 wounds.
well, 3
Every
hits.
single 3 hits every single time.
Yes.
So
not every
those
single
impact
one
hits-
wounded though.
No, but it was quite what's the word? Yeah, disenchanting.
So, into the Remington turn. And we do have a flank charge, Hammerers on Hammerers. However, I'm going to explain why this doesn't concern me. Because I'm definitely going to lose the fighting rank, so I'm not going to hit back. But there's only 5 of them hitting me. The champion's got 2 attacks, there's going to be 6 attacks coming in. They're going to be hitting on 4s because we've got the same weapon skill. It's only going to be 3 hits. And if they kill 3 of my Hammerers, I'm fine with that, because since they're stubborn, I would then fall back in good order, and during that fallback, I can then do a reform at the end of it, which means I
Because they're drilled.
well, that they can just do a reform anyway. You can turn to face, but because they're drilled, they can expand the ranks and turn to face the enemy at the same time. So if they then want to follow me, they would count as charging into my front, which means I would strike first and have a billion attacks, and they wouldn't get many at all. So that's why this situation doesn't worry me, because the Hammerers are stubborn. You're not going to wipe them out, and then when they fall back in good order, they'll be able to turn around and look at you and change their ranks as well. So I think this is still looking good in my favour, this one here.
So my thoughts there were, I want to tie up that unit, and if my Hammerers are tied up, it means they can't be shot at by your Anvil of Doom or your Iron Drakes.
Yes.
Plus, I've got my Iron Breakers behind those Hammerers that can possibly come in for a fight with the Hammerers too. And if I rally my Thunderers just out of the picture at the top there, then yeah, that's another unit I can use to threaten. So
yes, I'm not
too
saying
scared.
that flank charging these Hammerers is definitely a bad thing to do, because with those 6 attacks, you could just kill 6 Hammerers, and that is a really significant round, because you're that much closer to wiping them out. But in this instance, it doesn't particularly concern me, but it could work out in this situation.
Yes, I think had I put my king in that unit, it might have been slightly different.
Definitely. If you have the opportunity to flank charge a unit like this, that's definitely the way to go.
Yeah.
And if it's hammerers versus hammerers as well, and you did have a king in there, if I was then to try and issue a challenge with one of my hammerers, one of your regular hammerers could accept it. So the king would still be able to fight the unit. So I wouldn't be able to take him out of the action that easy. Over on this side, you've kind of put one of your units, your quarrelers, onto the hill, and because you haven't put magnets in the bases, they're now sliding off.
Yes, that was a oversight there. But the thing was, Andy's units are behind the hill, so unless I get on top of the hill, I can't actually shoot at them. And if I move round the hill, Andy has got the advantage of not having moved and being able to shoot me. Whereas me moving means it's -2 to hit because they're ponderous.
Yes, so
So
whoever
I thought, let's just get up on that hill. At least I can see everything.
moves onto the hill first is going to get hit with a lot of shots. But then if you get to fire while you're on the hill, of course you're shooting with an extra rank, so it is significant. Okay, then Iron Drakes, you'll see that my units are both down to 4. The enemy units are down to 4 and 3 now. And I think the clatter gun, is it, that you've got on this gyro bomber may have done something there as well, or at least attempted to.
Yeah, I'm sure it did. The clatter gun did do something. Maybe that was it.
And you've repositioned a bit on this side as well, so you've got your Thunderers out towards the hill, which is a really weird spot to be in because they're not really on the hill, but some of them can see through. And then you've got your Dwarf Warriors, I think, there with the king.
I moved the king out at the top of... I moved him out of the warrior unit so he could threaten your gyrocopter, because your gyrocopter's already wounded a crew member. He might well kill that bolt thrower and then go into the catapult. So I can't have that gyrocopter doing that. I don't want to waste an entire unit chasing it. So why not use the king, especially if your shooting can't get him because they can't see him or he's out of range. Meanwhile, bringing the warriors up to claim that middle bit gives your rangers something else to shoot apart from my thunderers.
Now, the issue is, though, that my rangers are going to be able to shoot quite effectively at that unit, should they want to, because there's not really any obstructions. And the fact that the king,
because I want my thunderers to have a clear shot at you.
But the king, they're all struggling to get into a position to shoot though, because they're kind of partially on the hill, so they're going to have to do another turn of movement possibly.
It sucks.
And the king coming out of the unit, as soon as that happened, I thought, that unit is suddenly way less scary because that king is pretty beastly in combat. So I'm less concerned about the centre combat-wise now, because I think my rangers will do a good job against some of these units that are coming in with the great weapons, quite significant. So let's see what happens for the rest of the turn. We've got some shooting, but you'll notice the bolt thrower is finished off by the gyrocopter in this round.
What did him in was the impact hits, and then I fell back in good order, and that meant on your turn you get the impact hits again. And you kept rolling three wounds on it, so that's kind of why it got destroyed. And now you're threatening my stone thrower.
Yes,
so that's very scary.
Very nice. And you'll see here that 3 of my hammerers were killed, which is about what you'd expect to happen in that hammerer duel. It's roughly the average amount that should die in that situation. So my unit falls back in good order and goes wide. So now, if you're going to charge me, it's not looking good for you. And I might even be tempted to charge you now as well, because I've got so many on the front rank that if you're only going to kill 3 each time, I'm going to be hitting you back with more than that. So
if you look as well, I'm out of the... I don't think I can charge you with my Iron Drakes, because I'm out of charge radius there.
Yes, you also chose not to pursue the fallback in good order with your hammerers, because we were discussing what the situation would be and that you would be striking last there, and I would have multiple attacks on my hammerers, so they would probably make mincemeat of you. So you decide to actually stay there. You can see also that the unit of Thunderers that previously fled are continuing to flee because they failed to rally. I think you got an 11. And
yeah, that's a shame, because if I had rallied there, I would get a round of shooting, potentially.
You've got no BSB in your army either.
No.
Yeah, so now, even if they do rally in your next turn, they would be counted as moving. So they'd be ponderous and -2.
Okay. So my Thunderers were basically ponderous in every turn of this game.
Yes. So that's how it's looking at the end of that turn. Oh, actually, what have we got here? So you can see the Doomseeker lining up a charge, and as we go into my turn, he makes it into your Dwarf Warriors, and after the fight, he's killed a couple and he's lost a wound as well. So he didn't actually do that well in this round, but I think he did just about either win the combat or it might have been a draw. How many were in the unit to begin with? Was it 10?
12, I think.
I think there's 10 there. Might be, well, maybe 1 or 2 more than that. So he definitely kills some of them.
Yeah.
And yes, so it's my turn, confirmation. So the anvil buffs up the armor of my Iron Drakes because they're in this shooting match against the enemy Iron Drakes. And look at this. With all my anvil and Iron Drake shooting, I've got your Hammery unit down to 3 models, so I've killed another 7.
Yeah, yeah, that sucks. So I wanted them in combat precisely to avoid that happening, but I was caught between a rock and a hard place because if I charge the Hammerers, and the Hammerers basically get 2 attacks when they get charged, so that would have been devastating because I think did you have the same initiative as me?
Well, if you charge in, then you give the enemy higher initiative and you don't get your initiative bonus because of the Rune of Confusion.
Scary.
Is it the Rune of Confusion that does that, or Hesitation? I can't remember, because I always use both of them together, so I forget which one does which job.
Yeah. I'm a bit... Yeah, I'm quite scared now, but I do have my Iron Breakers behind them.
Yes.
So that's that.
The Gyrocopter kills some of the crew for the Grudge Thrower, so I think that might be down to 1. And in the middle, you can see my Rangers have actually moved. Because they're skirmishers, they can just shoot through other models in the unit without causing any penalty, as per the FAQ that said that models in your own unit don't block line of sight. So, since they're skirmishers, they can just keep blasting away. And there's not much shooting is done successfully this round, because I chose to put the Doomseeker in there rather than shooting them, but it did leave a gap for my warriors to get through, because I feel like you have more bodies in the middle, and I don't know if my shooting is going to whittle them down enough by the end of the game, so I actually want to get in there and fight as well now.
Yeah.
So, Doomseeker in combat, Gyrocopter in combat, Hammerers now out of combat, and into turn 4 for the vile, traitorous dwarves in the army of Remington. So, a nice shot of my Thunderers as they stare down Remington's much more vintage-looking Quarrelers, compared to these mostly Battle for Skull Pass Thunderers.
Oh, that's nice focus you got on those pictures, Andy.
Yes, a nice transition there. You can see that my stupidity gun on the engineer hasn't done anything yet, by the way. He keeps missing with it because he's having to move a lot because of this hill. Yes. So, you've repositioned your units again, but this unit of Thunderers are really struggling, and they do have the ponderous rule. So really, they don't want to be moving, and so far they're moving every single turn, and being in a position where many of them can't see anything.
Yeah, I probably should just march them.
Yeah, you take the hit of not shooting, just march 1 turn, get them in a good position, and go from there.
Yeah.
And there's another bit of focus from the Rangers to the Thunderers, with Burlock in there. On the hill, you do actually rally your Thunderers this time, and your Iron Drakes spin round to shoot the Hammerers as well. And as a result of all that, you just kill 1, which is cool with me. But your 3 Hammerers running away here because, am I right in thinking that at this stage you realise if I stay here, they die, so I'm going to run away, hide, and preserve my points.
Yeah, I wouldn't say running away. I said I turned and moved away, so they weren't fleeing, but they're now out of range of your Anvil of Doom. And if you were to charge them with your Hammerers, I would run. Probably off the table, but you never know.
And then another Hammerer dies, actually, so a couple of kills inflicted there. The Doomseeker beats your Dwarf Warriors in combat again, kills another couple, and stays out of combat this time. So because this is your turn, I decide the Doomseeker is not going to chase them down because he wants to charge a different target next turn. He could either hit the Longbeards in the flank, or he could hit the Thunderers in the flank. You'll notice the Longbeards, by the way. I think you did give drill to this unit, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah, but not to the hammerers. So they were able to go narrower to fit through this area here, next to the King's Bone Chamber.
Yeah.
So that's how it's
And they
looking at the
are
end
out
of
of
your turn.
range. They're out of range, I believe, of your Anvil of Doom now.
They might well be, looking at this picture. They may be. So what I'm going to do in the next turn, I'm going to try and get into combat. So the Doomseeker and the Rangers are going to charge into the Thunderers there. Because I think between the two of them, they can clear that unit in one go. That's my hope. So the Rangers are skirmishers, so they'll just go as wide as they need to, and then they just form up behind the ranks like that.
So I'm quite excited because if the Rangers charge me, I will get a stand and shoot.
Yes, but
and
on
they're
the
Dwarven crafted, so it wouldn't be -1 to shoot. So,
but they are skirmishers, so there would be -1 for that still.
But I do have Burlock, the engineer, with his rivet gun. Maybe that can do something, and he also has quite a good high strength potential weapon as well.
Yes.
So yeah, there's not much I can do in this situation, really. I mean, if I was going to hang back, it's basically fish in a barrel for hang back or move forward.
Yes. So my turn 4. Iron Drakes and Anvil shooting. Take out another one of your Iron Drakes, which seems to be the standard, and then another one from this unit. So this unit's down to 2. So
yes, I think I might have shut down your Anvil shooting on this turn.
I think so. It did not go off this turn. You can see that my hammerers charged at your hammerers, who fled,
Yep.
and then my
Yep.
hammerers made the charge, but they didn't roll high enough to reach the Iron Breakers, which would have been cool. So they're now just standing there waiting to see if you want to charge them. And
Yeah,
there you
that's
go.
lovely. So I could have another round of shooting.
Oh, by the way, we didn't point out that your king killed the gyrocopter in the last turn as well.
Oh, that was glorious. So yeah, he absolutely twatted that from behind.
He sure did.
It fell from the sky with his sword of striking.
And right here you can see that a couple of the Rangers did get killed by your stand and shoot. The Doomseeker gets in there, kills at least one with his impact hits. Yeah. And then... So that's how it looks before we start the combat. So the reason that I've gone all in trying to kill this unit, they're still in a position where by the end of the game they possibly could get to within range of this. But I'm also thinking that I'm probably not going to secure the King's Bones because the forces of Karak Remington have got far too many bodies compared to mine. So I'm just going to try and kill as many units as possible and see if that makes up for the fact that I don't get the 500 bonus points for the King's Bones. And then we'll see where that leaves me. So
yeah, looking at it now, that bit of stone that I put down in the middle of the scenery was the worst decision ever, because it just blocked. It blocked so much.
Now look at this. The Doomseeker and the Rangers combined obliterate the Thunderers, and there's only 4 left, including Burlock.
Yeah, Doomseeker did 3 impact hits, and then he hit and wounded almost everything. It was devastating.
And then the Thunderers flee, and the Rangers catch them.
Yeah.
So they are now toast. So on the one hand, I've wiped out a fairly expensive unit, because it's got Burlock in there as well. But I've also taken a lot of bodies away from the main objective, which is the King's Tomb, his bone chamber. So we'll see whether that works out for me at the end, or whether that is a mistake. Now we've got potentially Longbeards versus Dwarf Warriors, but yours guys would have to go narrower to fit through this gap. So you wouldn't be able to go in a full traditional combat width. We've also moved this hill out the way because your unit kept sliding off it, but we remember where it is. You definitely need some magnets there. Turn 5 for Karak Remington, and the Longbeards go a little bit narrower with drilled and then charge into the Dwarf Warriors, so you're only going to be 3 wide. And you're shooting, it looks like you've taken a wound off my engineer, which isn't too scary.
Yes, it was getting towards the end of the game now, and it was like, right, I need to take out units because Andy's just taken out my big Thunderer unit. 10 Quarrelers are on the hill, so they're all going to get a shot. Maybe I could kill 2 or 3 of Andy's Thunderers, or I could kill off a whole character. So that's what I tried to do. Unfortunately, I didn't quite. I did. I think I did enough wounds, and you saved one. So that sucked. Or you said I did 3 wounds, and you saved 2.
Something
Something like
along
that.
those lines. So he survives anyway.
Yeah.
Then Iron Drakes, you can see that you've positioned both your Iron Drake units to target this one specifically now, because you're trying to thin them out, and they're down to 2 now.
Yeah. Focus fire.
Yes. So one thing you're not doing at all is targeting the anvil, which is probably wise because you're so far away and there's not much that could do anything to it. So also I should point out, by the way, that this anvil, the reason probably that you're not dropping a stone on it is because it's got the rune of preservation, which means that it's immune to multi-wound attacks.
Yeah. Yes, it's a very clever use of that rune, Andy, I must say.
Yes, so it can't suffer multiple wounds for that, or killing blow for that matter. So that's to really deter people from firing war machines at it or anything else that does multi-damage.
Yeah, I did want to drop a catapult on top of your Dwarf Thunderer unit. I thought that would be a good target. There was a possibility that it would scatter into my unit. You advised me to actually try and get your Iron Drakes off the table with a shot.
Yeah, the final Iron Drake, because if you land it right on him, I think you've got a 1 in 3 chance of a direct hit on the artillery dice. So if it lands on him, it'll almost certainly kill him, but you misfired anyway.
I misfired, but it wasn't a bad misfire. It was just can't shoot this turn.
Yes. Then we've got combat between the Longbeards, who you can see that they've gone wider now on their follow-up move because of the drilled, and they actually won the combat by 1 by killing one of my Dwarf warriors. So, even though their stats aren't hugely better, they're better in significant ways. So, Longbeards, I think, have strength 4 instead of 3, don't they?
Yeah.
So that's significant, and they have some Gromril equipment, which the regular dwarves do not, which also gives them a buff. So I'm not too happy about that situation, and it looks like Carrack Remington are in prime position to take the King's Bones, which, as we discussed earlier, 500 bonus victory points for controlling this area at the end.
Yes, I want to move my Dwarf Warriors out of the way of your Doomseeker and your Rangers. Completely, completely getting them out of the game because it's time to get the objective at this point. However, my Dwarf King has moved over near the Warriors, so he can't be targeted. He's out of range of your anvil. Also, he could potentially take out the Doomseeker himself.
Yes, the Doomseeker, who is still alive. Into my turn 5. The Hammerers charge into your Iron Breakers. And let me have a look where they were. So, charge going in there. Charge from Mr. Big Butts the Doomseeker into your remaining Dwarf Warriors. We've got a charge, a triple charge. So the Rangers, who are skirmishers, can of course charge whichever way they want into the Quarrelers. Thunderers charging the Quarrelers, and Engineer charging the Quarrelers. So you may well say, why are you charging them when you could just shoot them? And I just thought it'd be funny to triple charge a unit of Quarrelers with mostly shooting units. But the reason the Engineer's gone in is because I know that Mr. Remington would see that dice there and he'd see he's only got 1 wound left. I'm going to stand and shoot against him. When really, because he's actually on a hill here that's just been removed for practicality, he could end up killing like 5 Thunderers maybe with a stand and shoot here. But because that Engineer's got 1 wound left, I felt like that would tempt him. So I'm sacrificing the Engineer to get everyone into combat. And then they're just going to start whomping them.
Yeah, it was a split decision there, Andy. I knew my unit would get toasted because the Rangers would be charging them. So even if I shot 5 of your Thunderers off, getting 5 combat resolution there, I don't have a standard in the unit. You would be charging with your Rangers. You'd definitely kill 5 at least. So you would win the combat no matter what. So it's probably better for me to get some points and shoot off the Engineer.
Yes, just so people know, the play in this game is definitely shoot everything at those Quarrelers instead of the situation we're in here, which is triple charging them with shooting units.
Yeah,
but I thought it'd be
fun.
I thought it'd be fun. So a couple of the Thunderers got killed. but then enough of your unit was killed so that the pursuers then hunted you down and killed you.
Yeah, but your engineer was killed.
Yeah, the engineer was killed by the stand and shoot. So the Rangers actually didn't do that amazingly in the combat. They only ended up with a score of 6. Then, on the other side of the table, we've got an upside-down picture of the Hammerers who do make it into your Iron Breakers. And you can see that the Hammerers do actually win, but I think I only maybe killed 1. Not many, definitely.
Yeah,
So
I think I did a couple of good armor saves.
I think I only win the combat by having the BSB in there. My Dwarf warriors lose 4 to the Longbeard, so this fight's not going very well. And I think they have to fall back in good order.
Bit of a quandary here. Do I pursue into another round of combat and potentially get out of range of the objective and in range to his Anvil of Doom? So that was a problem for me, because I obviously wanted to clear off that unit and get the points, but then I would be totally exposed and not near the actual objective. So
yeah, so as this combat rumbles on, you've had opportunities to pursue them or to just hold your ground and hold the King's Bone here.
Yeah.
But you chose to pursue them at this point. You can see also that my 2 units of Iron Drakes have decided, hey, Mr. Remington, you're not the only one who can focus fire. Focus fire on that unit. So I've got more Iron Drakes left alive, but none of the units are down to even the last model yet. So you can see how terrible they are at killing each other, because they're just giving them ward saves.
Yeah,
so,
that ward save against flaming attacks, very, very useful, and I think we both were successful in using those.
They might as well have been throwing pillows at each other at this stage.
Yeah.
So
my Thunderers at the top there, they're kind of in no man's land now, because your Hammers are in combat and everything else is out of sight because there's a hill in the way.
So what do you think about this? The Doomseeker slaughters the Dwarf warriors and overruns into the King.
That was devastating.
So the Doomseeker now
impacted is constantly rolling 3s.
Yes, so the Doomseeker, he's had 1 wound left for a while. He has single-handedly killed a unit of warriors. He assisted in killing the Thunderers, and now he's got his eyes on the King. So this is a no-lose situation for the Doomseeker, because if he kills the King, I get loads of points. If the King kills the Doomseeker, then Rem doesn't score the 50 points for the Doomseeker being still alive at the end of the game. So,
yeah, I had to kill that Doomseeker though, because look at the threat he poses. Just this lone guy has killed like 2 units. Yeah, it's whirling death there, I'm afraid. And he could even kill my King.
He certainly could, because he's got the impact hits first.
The only thing preventing it is the fact that I've got magic armor on.
Yeah, you've got the Rune of Gromril, haven't you? So you've got a 2-up save, so 3 up against his attacks.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's getting down to the wire now, and it's looking very close as well, because most of the units aren't anywhere near the objective. These 2 units certainly are, but Rem's got the edge there. I've got Iron Drakes, there's still 4 of them in that unit, and they're quite close to the objective, so they can try and work their way back there at some point. Other than that, no one else is that close. There's these 2 Iron Drakes here. So turn 6 for Rem, so we'll see actually who he commits to the centre at this stage. Because if he abandons it, then I can just dive in there and hopefully win the game. Because at the moment, I think I'm up on points, because you've killed the gyrocopters, all of them. You've killed the pony cart, and I think that's it at the moment. I've managed to kill the gyro bomber, the thunderers, the quarrelers, and Burlock. I've whittled down a few other units as well. So I think I'm slightly up on points at this stage. I'm also going to score some points for your hammerers, but not full points, because I've whittled them down to 3 models from 15. So in your turn 6, my dwarf warriors lose the combat and flee, and you decide, actually, I'm going to try and restrain and not pursue you because I need to stay within range of the King's Bones. So a wise decision there. Now, this was a bit of a nail-biter. The Doomseeker, with his impact hits and attacks going first against the King, knocked him down to 1 wound.
Oh, it was scary. Luckily, I did manage to... He did enough wounds to kill me, but I managed to do enough saving throws just to survive with 1 wound left.
You did.
And strike back.
Yeah, then you killed the Doomseeker, and with the Doomseeker's death blow, he wounded the king again.
Yeah.
So the king had to make a 3-up save to not die at the same time as the Doomseeker. And obviously he's still there, so managed to pass the save. But that was very close to being a dead king and a Doomseeker total MVP. And considering he's been such a disappointment in the other games, I'm finding that when he actually gets the charge off and gets in those impact hits and gets the initiative bonus so he can fight first, he's actually a big deal. It's just when he's facing armies that are too fast, so he's never going to be able to get the charge in. So you've got to position him so that he can get in those charges, because he is an absolute murder machine for only 50 points. And then
you considered using the cart?
The cart with a Doomseeker?
Yeah.
I haven't thought about just a band of merry Doomseekers running along next to a pony cart, but I'd certainly consider it.
Yeah, get them in against a unit that doesn't have stand and shoot could be great.
So there he is, dead. And then the Hammerers into the Ironbreakers again, managed to kill a few more, win the combat by a decent margin this time. But I think you just entirely pass your save. So the Ironbreakers proving very sturdy, because I think I won the combat last time and you used their stubborn, so they don't have it anymore. And your 3 Hammerers just observing there.
Yeah, my Ironbreakers really, they don't have a very powerful attack at all, so I didn't manage to get any wounds in on Andy on this one.
Indeed.
My 3 remaining Hammerers turned, and if there was another turn, perhaps I'd do a flank charge.
So, at this point now, the King's Bones are held by Remington going into my final turn, because these Longbeards are within range and these 2 Iron-Drakes are within range. My only chance to claim the bony prize is to turn round these Iron-Drakes and start going that way, and then use the anvil to make them move even further to get them to within 6 inches of the bones. And I also have to shoot down the unit of Longbeards. It's no good killing the Iron-Drakes because there's only 2 of them, and the Longbeards have got 8 models left, so I need to kill the Longbeards with shooting. And to do that, I've got the Anvil of Doom, I've got this 1 Iron Drake on a hill, and I've got the potentially some Rangers over here who could shoot them as well. So let's find out. You can see here, by the way, that the Ironbreakers do run away, but the Hammerers crash into the Grudge Thrower. And then, this is in my turn now, I get the Iron Drakes up in position to claim the King's Bones, but the Anvil of Doom, it strikes his thumb instead of the rune and does not successfully cast the bound spell at the Longbeards. So I don't think I do. Do I do anything to them at all? Maybe, let's go back and have a look. No, I didn't kill any. So everything missed. And I did rally my Dwarf Warriors though, so no points for those. And that is the situation with the King's Bones. So Rem has clearly got more units around it, so he's going to get a 500 point bonus, which is going to make it close. So we went through the scores, totaled up how much was killed on either side, and with the 500 point bonus for Mr. Remington, we end up within 20 points of each other. So it's a draw. I think you had like 835, I had about 855. So 500 point swing for securing the King's Bones to be taken back to the ancestral halls to be neutrally, wink wink, assessed and authenticated. So
yeah, a good game, considering all the gaffes I did with my shooting units. Should have really put them in the middle. But yeah, considering it's my first time playing Dwarfs, I think I did all right.
Yes, and obviously you were conscious of the scenario. You deployed some units, some infantry in there, so you'd have a chance at the King's Bones, and you didn't stray too far. You didn't get overexcited at the end of the game and run away from them.
Yeah, I did get a bit did I say disenchanted? I felt a bit glum at one point in the game. Andy was getting all these impact hits with the gyrocopters and the Doomseekers. I was missing everything, wasn't getting any clear shots, and it was very disheartening, that's the word. So I was just tossing my dice, knowing that I would roll badly, and I did.
There was one moment, actually. One moment I'm going to tell the people about that was quite amusing, to me at least. Yeah. So you had a few bad dice rolls in a row, looking a bit down, and then suddenly a combat came along. You picked up a handful of dice, you threw them, and it was pretty much all hits. And you went into this big speech talking about how you just got to think positive. I've got my mojo back now, and you threw the dice down again, and they all failed to wound. Classic
Yeah, that's
Remington
right.
maneuver.
That's right.
So, how did you enjoy the first game with the dwarves compared to wood elves that you've been using
uh,
previously?
yeah, a lot easier than wood elves because you do have less choices than you do with wood elves. Because with wood elves, you've got movement, you've got more shooting, magic, flying, cavalry, um, and so there's a lot more things to consider, and you have to be a lot more conscious of your movement and distances and where you set up. With dwarves, because they can take a hit, it doesn't matter if you don't get the first turn so much. Um, and you sort of plod along everywhere. So it gives you sort of more time to consider your options. Whereas with wood elves, you could make quite a long move and then suddenly you could be in a bit of a quandary. But with dwarves, they are very ponderous and that gives you more time, but less options. If that makes
Yes,
any
I think
sense at all.
it was definitely a quicker game when you didn't have to worry about all kinds of different magic spells. So you didn't take a rune smith, so you didn't really have too much to do magically or anti-magic in the whole game. You didn't even take a
Yeah,
BSB. So I
yeah,
think for list building tips, I don't know if the small unit of iron breakers really doing anything for you in this game.
no,
So I think that could have been spent elsewhere. I think the king could have gone in with the hammerers as well and
yeah,
made them quite a scary prospect. And they need to be drilled as well, the hammerers, so that you
yeah,
can go wide before getting into combat. I think the king's... The way you tooled out the king was fine. Don't see any issues with that, with the Rune of Gromril for the 2-up save, and you gave him the, what's it called, Rune of Smiting, the one that does multiple
yeah,
wounds. That
yeah. That definitely helped.
That's good, particularly if you're up against like monsters or other characters.
Yeah, my war machines were a bit of a dud, really. They didn't claim their points back, that's for sure.
The most
Perhaps I should put an engineer near them to give them better shooting.
If you're going to take
But
multiple war
also,
machines, then an engineer there with a gun of some kind. With the new
yeah,
engineering runes as well, you can make a lone engineer actually quite scary.
yeah, I could have defended my war machines at the back a bit better. And just the movement shenanigans with the scenery near the ruins kind of ruined my game plan there.
Yes, so I
Um,
think deployment as well. I think the main thing
yeah,
people will say is to set up... When you're setting up a dwarf army, you want to be moving as little as possible, especially with the shooting units that are ponderous. So you want to
yeah,
set up in a position where maybe you'd have to move once to get into range and then you can just keep firing for the rest of the game, or ideally, you stay where you are and you've enticed the enemy to come to you with your
yeah,
long-range
absolutely.
shooting.
Absolutely. I think having played Wood Elves so much, I'm used to putting smaller shooting units on the flanks because, um, yeah, Elven shooting's really good like that. And it's just force of habit, maybe put the dwarves like that, but they suffer so much penalties with the moving, slow moving, and also the ponderous means they actually don't do anything. So it's much better to put dwarven shooting units in a position where they can see everything.
Are you going to be
And
painting anything imminently that you're thinking of adding to your
uh,
lists?
I've got a goblin hewer. I've got a flame cannon. I've got an anvil of doom. I've got 25 imperial dwarf spearmen, and I've got 12 miners, classic marauders. So yeah, my painting table is absolutely full at the minute. But I was quite impressed that I could easily fill a 2,000 point army with the models I had. In fact, I probably could have put another 500 points out of painted models
At some
that I
point,
didn't bring.
when you've got all your dwarves painted, we'll have to do a big dwarf mega battle, like 5,000 points aside. That'd be fun.
Yeah, we'd definitely need 2 days at least for that, though. So
Probably, sadly.
yeah,
I'm currently
yeah,
working on Ungrim because I've got the model. I've put some base coats on it. I'm trying to get him ready for Saturday because there's an old world event taking place. So
nice.
I want to use him in with the hammerers to make them unbreakable, which is really good, obviously. And he's also a combat beast on his own.
He's so expensive, so if you put him in and the anvil, it's just
That's what I'm thinking, though. I'm thinking an
ridiculous.
anvil without too many upgrades on it. And then the anvil is just going to propel the hammerers with Ungrim forwards into the enemy and see what happens.
Yeah, but Andy, I think you should consider the dwarf, the pony cart, with herding along some Doomseekers.
That would be funny,
And
them kind of doing a
you've got
dance
your
around the pony cart.
gyrocopters. You've got your gyrocopters that could potentially do a screening maneuver as well. So something to consider there.
Potentially.
Rush.
Also, I'm not sure whether I prefer the Grand Army or the Royal Clan or the Engineers Expeditionary Army. Because I'm going to have to give multiple tries to all of the different sub-lists before deciding which one I favour, but they've all got their positives and negatives.
The Expeditionary Army is brilliant if you've got lots of shooting, because they're no longer ponderous, is that right?
Yeah, you can upgrade them so they can move and shoot without penalty, yes.
That's phenomenal then, because then you've got strength 4 shots then, haven't you?
Yes, that is very good. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure people in the comments will have loads of list and general army building and tactical tips for both sides, because I think I could have done a few things differently as well. I could have put more bodies in the centre rather than just trying to kill your entire army. I could have been more focused on the bone, where you had most of your thoughts.
If your hammers were in the middle, you know.
Yeah, the hammerers kind of got caught out by the fact that a lot of your units were fleeing from them.
Yeah.
And they didn't really kill anything, but on the other hand, they held up about half your army because you sent so much stuff over there looking at them.
I would have put your hammers right in the middle and just stayed there, not charging anything, so I wouldn't flee, and making me shoot you, which would take a long time. And if I charge you, you get all the bonuses that you get. So
my concern was,
easy...
I think your army had more bodies in it, I thought. So if I put the hammerers in the middle, then you could just like camp out near the bones and just taunt me. That was my thinking. So let us know what you thought. Wonderful audience. Thanks for everyone who's stayed up late to watch this as well on a strange, unusual day for a battle report as well. There is going to be an Age of Sigmar battle report tomorrow, by the way. I just had a game this evening with the Sons of Behemat, so that's going to be interesting. And then we've got an Old World event this weekend that I'll be reporting on either on Sunday or Monday, depends how tired I am, after 5 games of Old World using the Dwarfs, hopefully with fully painted Ungrim, if I can get him done tonight. Could stay up for a couple more hours and paint, and then tomorrow as well. It's just non-stop gaming and live streaming around here at the moment, and we've even got Mr. Remington Steele himself on board for multiple battle reports in the same month. What is this madness? When are you going back on tour?
At the end of September.
Yeah, so we've still got a bit more time to get some more games in. So we'll have to arrange the next one imminently.
Yeah.
And
I want to bring out my Wood Elves again.
Yes.
But I enjoyed the Dwarves. I enjoyed playing the Dwarves, and I'd definitely try them out again.
Yeah, we need to see your Wood Elves with a dragon again, don't we?
Yes. Absolutely.
That's where the filth is at the moment. So, everyone watching, don't forget to like the video, of course. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Although, record numbers of you are subscribing, by the way. I've been keeping an eye on the numbers since the vast amount of battle reports I've been putting out are obviously paying off. I think the subscriber growth is up something like 120% compared to a couple of months ago. So that's very nice. Make sure you give the battle report a like if you've got a second, because it helps with the algorithms apparently, and more people that are into Warhammer, I think, would like this content, especially because I've never seen a dwarf versus dwarf old world battle report so far, so this is a first. How about I tell everyone to fire a bolt thrower at long range at the like button? I like it. So that means that like 1 in every 3 viewers will be able to hit it successfully. I've just clicked like, so you've got 1 like there. Oh, we've got 9 likes so far. What a dream. Don't forget, everybody, to check out all the links in the description as well. There's the Discord server, which will get Rem active in one day. There's the Facebook. There is the Twitter. All that good stuff. And obviously, if you want to keep this non-stop torrent, this non-stop tidal wave of wargaming, battle reports and other content flowing, then why not pledge your entire life savings on the Patreon? You can't avoid your entire life savings because you're going to spend it on frivolous things like food or rent. Then you can just hand over a small portion is probably a fair compromise, I would say. And other than that, Mr. Remington, do you have some parting words for the people?
It's great to be back. We used to do a weekly show chatting about Warhammer and the old world, or 8th edition back then it was, and a lot on Age of Sigmar. And we used to get a good 2,000 or 3,000 views on our videos. It's great to see that these battle reports are getting 2,000-3,000 views. So we're giving you what you want, and it's great to be back.
Yeah, who would have thought that doing regular content would bring in viewers? What a wild concept. Okay, folks, thanks for watching. All that remains to be said is good night out there, whatever you are.